What's up, guys? Welcome back to the UTV from hell right now. You guys saw my other video. We did some wiring stuff on there for the four-wheel drive. I do have a little update on that. I got that all proper and fixed and figured out why what I originally told you was not correct. I was told yes by Hisun, and then after looking at everything, it didn't work, and we had a couple more issues with that, so I had to change some wiring again on it. But anyways, so I'll try to remember to jump into that. It's all enclosed in the battery box. But the other issue we have, you guys, I had this thing all together. I was bleeding the system, water pump issues. So I bled the system. I popped the top ones off and it just wasn't bleeding. So I shoved a screwdriver down through this guy here. It was blocked off. That guy's blocked off. Pressurized the system with air to make sure everything is clean, but still was overheating, even though I did burp the crap out of the system. So I jumped down here, we might be able to see this, to the water pump, and went to take a bolt out to drain it, to check it, and the bolt was rusted through and snapped right off. All right, got all the bolts out of this thing. This one's a little pain in the butt down here. I use a swivel, like you guys see in my previous videos. Let's try to get this bad boy out of here. Doesn't look too bad. Check on some belt deflection, feels good. Secondary clutch looks good. All right, so next on the agenda, we're gonna go ahead and spread the secondary clutch, pull the belt off, take the secondary clutch out. Primary clutch should come apart, no problem. I'll have to get some air and probably do that because my air gun's a little bit smaller. And then, so we'll jump on this and pull that back CVT cover off, and that'll give us access to the side case cover here, and that'll give us access to the rest of the stuff on the inside. All right, guys, so I have to use the bolt out of my case splitter. I didn't have the right thread pitch on a regular bolt. No big deal, we'll just screw that in. I put a little anti-seize on it like I always say. We'll spread this thing completely apart. And then before we take the secondary clutch off, we'll spin the clutch and let it go back together. That way there's no pressure on the spring. Should have grabbed my shorter ratchet so I quit beating on stuff here. Apparently it doesn't matter where I go, but anyways, see if that's enough to get it off or not. That might be enough to get it off. Nope, still gotta go some more. Try to roll it now. There we go. Get that belt off. And again, the belt name, you'll be able to read it when you put it on there. So let's go ahead and back this guy back out. Because we don't want any pressure on that secondary clutch when we take that nut off, because then it's a good possibility it can spring back up here. I run it kind of nice and slow. That's why I got anti-seize on it so it doesn't lock up. That ended up being a 16 millimeter, not a 17, so that's a 16. We'll hit it with some air real quick. Hopefully everything comes off easy. I hate struggling with these things. All right, there's a spring and all that good stuff. Secondary clutch came off, no problem. Now if we can get the helix out of here. Ow. That might be the tough one. Might have to tap on that a little bit. Let's see. Grab my hammer. Just light taps, nothing heavy. There we go. Get it. It's just stuck on there, a little rusted. So that's actually a worrisome thing when it comes to the primary clutch, is how well and easily it comes off. You know, on this guy here, you got a bearing that spins in the middle. That's a 21 millimeter. So we'll go ahead and try to bust that off real quick. Hopefully the air compressor don't kick on. Ooh, just enough room. It's scary. coming loose, but what scares me is that it could break and then we're really screwed. All right, well, I'm gonna have to turn the air compressor back on, so I'm gonna cut it short on this, and we'll keep working on that. I don't wanna hear the air compressor noise while we're recording. So we'll just keep working on that, hit it with the WD-40 down in here. Hopefully it runs in and we can get that thing worked out. All right, guys, so I finally got this clutch off. It's actually a day and a half later. I ended up walking away and working on it, and I thought it was stuck in the crank. It's actually stuck in the clutch outer primary itself. So I'm gonna have to knock that out, clean this all up, and see what's going on there. So now I gotta get the proper flywheel puller and go ahead and insert that and get the back sheave off this thing. So I'll jump up, grab my flywheel pullers, come over, and we'll get that off. All right, guys, so what I had to do, I went through multiple flywheel pullers, but this thing was crazy rusty. Wouldn't hardly come off. I just did it off camera. What I did, I hit my impact multiple times. I superheated it with MAP gas, like crazy red hot. And then I just hit on the end of this with a hammer, and it literally just popped off a second ago. I've had to do this in the past on another, I think it was another 800 actually, Massimo 800, older version. I didn't do a video on that. It was quite a few years back now. And the same thing happened. Had to superheat this. Just be careful that your bearing and everything still works right, that you don't overheat that guy. Get the right flywheel puller, and I finally got this thing to pop off. She's scalding hot right now, so I'm gonna take it down, throw it on the ground. Didn't mean to do it like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and back this bolt out real quick. That way, or this flywheel puller out real quick. I actually had to shave some threads off of this one. This thing's gonna be hot. Off this one because it got damaged for another shop, but I got it to work, knocked some threads off of it. We're golden. So we'll let that cool. Next thing we'll go ahead and do, we'll jump in here. We're gonna pull off all of these 8mm 6x10s. Here, there, all those. Get this off, and then we'll have access to the side cover here. All right, so let's go on and take these guys out. Let me guess, it's got a 10mm nut. Yep, it's got a nut on the back side of that one. Of course, why not? You know, they're famous. It's like Can-Am. They're famous for putting nuts on the back of all these things. Oh, don't fall in the oil. Now, each one of these does have a little lock washer on the back, so don't forget that. Which I just about dropped mine in the oil down here. Let me grab a 10mm wrench. And that one also has apparently a nut on the back side. And some of the crappiest spots there ever could be. All right, I think that's all of them. So let's pull this guy off. We may struggle with the radiator hose and the tube for the intake for the air for the clutch. Let's go on and see if we can't get that bad boy off. They put the clamp in the worst spot possible. I use my little JIS screwdrivers for this, just because it seems to work a little bit better. Sorry if I'm blocking your guys' view. Pull that off, get it out of the way. See if we can't get this lovely thing out of here now somehow. There we go. That made things a lot easier. What I'll do, I'll take some Scotch-Brite and I'll clean up this end of the crankshaft right here. That way we don't have any issues with it going on or getting off. And I usually use like the green. I believe the green, I think is what it is. Partially colorblind again, sorry. But I think that's the color I usually use if I clean up the shafts. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take off this hose. Everything on this guy is pretty rusty. It did get, I think the owner of it said it got submerged before he bought it. But anyways, there's that. Now we'll just go ahead and keep track of all of these guys. I know there's probably gonna be a little bit of a mess down here, so we'll put my oil pan down there. Want to make sure the bolts are going to go back into same spots, because I already tell one is a little bit longer than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and set those up the same way they came out. Oh, look at that. We can take a motor mount off too to get this side plate off. That's great. Didn't even notice that till just now. We're doing this one together, guys. So, not sure what these are mounted to, but only one way to find out. Felt the side case release there, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these out and line them up exactly the same way I took them out. That way I know they're going back in the exact same spot. I would definitely hate to get one that's too long in the wrong spot and end up breaking something else. That one's gonna be the top. All right, so let's see. We're gonna need, looks like 14 and a 14, an 8 and a 10. I think this could be a 14. It might be actually a 15, being as weird as some of this stuff is. Check a 13. I know that's not gonna be big enough. 14. 14, that's a miracle. It's an actual real size. And I may have to take the bottom ones out. Actually, I probably could have just took the bottom ones out and slid the whole thing sideways. So let me crawl underneath here and knock those out real quick. I think that'd have been the better choice. Let's take a look. Yep, 13 fits these better. There we go. All right, so there's all the bolts for the motor mount underneath. Get my oil pan, slide it back over here. So what I'd say we needed a 10 and an 8. There's my 8. Always release the small ones for the big ones. And I know I brought my 10 millimeter over here. Did I stick it in my pocket? Sure did. There we go. Keep all the motor mount bolts together. Make sure you guys still got a decent view of what's going on. I think that worked pretty good for you. Sorry, no zoom on the GoPro. Now we can get this whole thing out of the way. Double check for any more bolts. Everything looks good. We'll just slowly work this out, and hopefully the gasket stays together. That'd be nice. Feels like it did. Oh yeah, the gasket stayed perfect. That's awesome. So again, just like on the Odes, because these motors are very, very similar, you have the plastic gear. Oh, see, look at that. You can see where we were getting some water through the water pump there, or oil through the, yeah, water through the water pump. Kind of weird to say that. Just like the Odes, you have this plastic gear that runs off the crankshaft. This is notorious for going out. If you watch Two Vintage, watch Joel on there. He just did I think a 13 Odes 800 Dominator. You wonder why they do plastic? I couldn't tell you. They do. But boy, I tell you what, that oil pump gear, woo-wee, she is awful. That feels awfully worn. But yeah, he just replaced that, thought it went out, and he actually lost the pin that went to the water pump. But that oil pump gear, man, that is definitely pointy. So I think we're gonna have to order up oil pump gear for sure. And then I need to tap back in this little guy here. Should come off right there. All right, so that feels pretty good. Now we're gonna go ahead and go to the other side. I can feel the plastic gear on the other side spinning the water pump. I know I've rebuilt one of these in the past, and it's got a plastic gear on the inside also that runs across to the water pump, and it spins the water pump, and it runs off this plastic gear that runs off of course, the crank, which runs off this idler gear down to your water pump and your oil pump. So be very careful on that. Pay attention to that. And you see this guy here, it looks pretty good. No problems there. Let's pull this one off real quick, the oil pump off, and let's see actually how bad that is. Let's see if I can get it popped off with this pry bar I have real quick. Yeah, there we go. I should be able to pop that off, get the tip in there and slide it up. Maybe. Or not. May have to go grab a screwdriver. Nope, got it. All right, so I don't want to lose it. There we go. Pull off that clip. And then spacer. This is really awkward trying to work around this camera. It does not make anything very easy. Spacer, and then this guy, and it should have a pin that runs through the back to line it up. So if you look, those teeth are crazy, crazy sharp. I don't know if this wore down or if that's just how sharp this is. But I think I'm still gonna, I think we might still order up another one anyways, just to double check, because you can see some of these teeth are chipped right here on the tip. But boy, that's awful, awful sharp. I don't remember them being that sharp compared to everything else. I mean, if you compare this guy here, that guy there, you could just see it doesn't really set in there right. But then you look at the water pump gear that runs off it looks kind of sharp also. So it might just be that sharp on this, because it sets in here like that. They just might have a crazy tolerance like that. Like I said, it's been a long time since I had to mess with one of these, so you know, I'm looking at it. I think that's just the way they're cut. So we might be okay. We should be okay on this then, because the water pump is pretty much the same way. But let's head over to the other side, see if we can't get that water pump to pop off. Guys, so we finally got the water pump out. You can just see how deteriorated this seal is right here. I mean, it's pretty bad. There's your gear on the back. Like I said, that seal's pretty bad. There's the gear on the back with the pin. You can just see how bad it was stuck in there. I didn't want to have to pry on the sealing surfaces of the motor, but we had to anyways. But that's besides the point. And now we got this out, so we'll get a new water pump ordered up. I'll leave a link in the description. Amazon has them for like, I don't know, 70, 80 bucks, something like that. So we'll get one of these ordered up and we will reinstall that bad boy. And then we'll bleed out the system and see if that cures our overheating problem. All right, so you guys saw how all this comes apart. Like I said, we'll clean this up. We'll clean this up with some Scotch-Brite. I'll go ahead and reassemble this. I'll put the oil pump gear back on, idler gear, and the second water pump gear. There's 3 plastic gears. There's a plastic one on this side, which again runs off of the, I wanted to make sure that was good because it all was failing. I couldn't get off the other side, so I thought this rod ran all the way through, but I was like, man, I don't remember that. But again, there are three plastic gears. So you have the one that runs off the crank, which is the idler gear, which spins this rod on a plastic gear that runs through to the water pump side, which has a plastic gear on the inside of the motor. If that fails, you have to pull the motor with the cases to replace that. And then it runs all the way across to the water pump, and on the back of the water pump, you guys saw it has another gear on there. So there's multiple places for your water pump to fail. It could be the impeller, it could be the seals, it could be, let's hope this gear here doesn't fail, because then your oil pump quits spinning, and then you're gonna have an issue with blown up motor, locked up bottom end because you're not getting any oil pressure. So you have the water pump gear, the plastic on the back of that, the one internally on this one, the one on the back side. When I say internally, I mean in between the cases. Then you have this guy right here that could fail, and this guy here fails, and then you know, there's a bunch of things that can fail on the water pump. Not a very good way of engineering these motors, but again, so we'll go ahead and just slide all that stuff back together real quick. So again, here's the pin. We'll go in after the gear goes on. So we'll pull that back out a little bit, slide the gear on, past the hole, throw the pin on it sideways. Oh, this is so hard to do with just you guys sitting right here next to me. Pull that all the way forwards, push it all the way to the other side, make sure it seats all up against there. And then you have the oil pump, this guy right here. Same thing, pin, make sure it lines up right here. Like I said, I thought maybe the oil pump was bad, the gearing wise, but it actually fits in there really snug. So we'll go ahead and put this guy back on. Make sure it fits all the way on there, because you got to be able to access where that circlip goes. So the pain in the butt is to get that all lined up, push it all the way on. Got the washer. And then we'll have the clip after that, which I'm gonna have to move you guys out of the way so I can reach in here to put the clip back on. All right guys, sorry I had to move you out of the way. I couldn't reach in there with both hands. So got to pass the crank now on the oil pump, on the water pump gear. Everything is solid in place. Now we'll go ahead and clean up the side case cover here a little bit, clean it up, and we'll go ahead and rebolt everything back in the same way we took all the bolts out, which you guys don't need to see that. And all those will be torqued to 10 to 12 Newton meters. And then we can go ahead and reinstall the inner clutch CVT cover. All those bolts will be 10 to 12 Newton meters on the cover. And then we'll put the primary in, the secondary in, the belt back on, kind of reverse order. And I believe it's 100 Newton meters on the secondary clutch and 120 on the primary clutch. And then put the CVT cover back on, and then we'll wait on that water pump to come in. All right, guys, so we finally got our part in. We got the new water pump, ordered it off of Amazon. Still cheap Chinese stuff, no big deal. I'll leave a link in the description. Here's the old one. Old one's pretty simple to pull apart. Just take that off, pull this off. As you guys can see, this one was severely corroded, damaged. It was leaking oil into the coolant. And so once again, comes with your 2 O-rings. Circlip's already on there. Front pump cover where the O-ring goes, back pump cover where the back O-ring goes. And then all you gotta do to top this guy off, I'll put just a little bit of oil in that here in 1 second, but slide the pin in, slide the gear on, just double check that gear, make sure it's good, because I got showing you guys all those gears that are plastic, and then you can see it all turns. And we'll go ahead and put the O-ring on this, insert that. I did get a new bolt for the drain plug on there that broke off on me. Got a new one right here. I had that one in stock. Front pump cover, it looks exactly the same. Everything looks exactly the same. And all we're gonna do is put a brass washer or a aluminum washer on this when we bolt it together. That way it plugs off the any water from falling out. So I gotta clean up the surface on the motor. So I'll do that with some Scotch-Brite real quick, clean that up, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just bolt the new water pump on, and then we'll start to go ahead and fill up the coolant. And I'll show you guys exactly how I bleed this thing, and that way we can make sure as it goes, if it keeps bubbling, never stops bubbling, then we might have a bad head gasket too. Couldn't tell you. Like I said, this thing was bought secondhand after it was kind of ran and beat, and I think it was sunk, he said. So we'll install this, and then we'll go ahead and fill the coolant up. All right, guys, got the water pump on this Bennche. It's up underneath here. You can see it's kind of deep. I use a spill-proof funnel. These things work awesome. I did have to modify the tip of the green one. I kind of had to shave it down a little bit. I did lose the O-ring for it. I just have another O-ring I put on there. I just make sure it's on there square. Seals down in there, grab our old top. Make sure it's nice and tight, doesn't move around. Add this. I don't know what just happened. I just had an SD card error, so we'll see if this works or not. Again, one of these spill-proof funnels, modified a piece. Hopefully that's still recorded. If not, make that fit. Pulled out the 2 bleed screws from the cylinders. And then we'll go ahead and start pulling coolant in here, and we'll see which one fills first, and then I'll plug that off, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna start filling this thing off camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling this up. Once I get full here, and it comes out the bleed screws back there, I'll cap those off. We'll fill this up about halfway, start the unit up, and let it run and watch it bubble and do its thing. Really helps a lot having one of these to bleed the systems out on these things. All right, guys, so we got this full. We filled that up slowly until we got fluid flowing out of here constantly, nice and slow. If you do it too fast, it's not gonna push all the air out. So nice and slow. I had air coming out, or fluid coming out here with no air. Same thing over here. We will check those as we bleed the system. And also, I came down here to the radiator. Might be hard to see. There was a bleed valve up here. Take that out until all the air comes out, and then go ahead and plug it back off. So now what we're gonna do, my new tripod showed up, so I'm gonna switch tripods, and I'm gonna get you guys a view and see what we can see with this, once we start this unit up, all the air that comes out of the system. All right, so I'll show you guys this real quick. You might see it from here or not. Easiest thing about this is the batteries underneath the seat and that box. They had added some jump terminals there and a on-off switch for power. So it makes life a little easier. Let's get you back over here to this, and we'll see if this thing fires off with this 100 amp start on my battery charger. There we go. Unplug the battery charger. And now we'll just sit here and we'll watch for bubbles that come out of here. You see that already? Boop, boop. Doesn't sound like it's running on both cylinders right now though. You can hear it kicking in and out. Could just be the cold weather. I could be low on fuel also. So I'll sit here for quite a while and I'll let this keep bubbling, and then let the fans kick on a few times, let it circulate. I'll let it cool all the way down and watch the level drop, come back to it, and then we'll go ahead and check the oil to make sure that we don't have any water going back into the oil. And you'll be able to see vice versa here if the oil was going into the water right now. So I won't keep you guys watching this forever. I'll shut you off, come back after this thing's ran for quite a while. I'll let you know how long it's sat here running for. And that way you guys, I've sat here 45 minutes letting these things idle to get all the air bubbles out of the system. I don't know why it's so hard sometimes, but that's just the way it goes. So I'll go back in and I'll loosen up those bolts you saw back here on the head. I'll loosen those guys up a little bit back in there, and we might check the radiator up front too multiple times through this process to kind of help speed up that bleeding process. And it's been nothing but a constant bubble. So I'm gonna guess that maybe we have a bad head gasket. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna shut the unit off. We'll go ahead, pull the spark plug out of the front cylinder. We'll do a leak down test and check to see if we have any air blowing through the head gasket for the front cylinder. If not, we'll do a leak down test in the rear to see if we get a bad head gasket, and that'll blow air into the to the cooling system and give us bubbles out of here. So I'm going to shut this off. It should not be constant bubbles like that. That's going to be, to me, that's an indication that we have a bad head gasket. I mean, like I said, I've spent up to 45 minutes, but it was just a bubble here and there, not a constant bubbling like that when you start the unit. So so I'm gonna say we might have a blown head gasket. The coolant is still really cold. The radiator is only 130 degrees with my heat gun, but we're gonna go ahead and pull a spark plug. We're gonna pull a valve cover off of that so we make sure we're at TDC. Since I really don't have any access over here on this side with the exhaust in the way. I don't think I can get to that with the exhaust in the way. So I'll just try to bump it over with the key, the top dead center, and go ahead and then we'll do a leak down and see if we get any air blowing through the head gasket back into the cooling system. All right, guys, so here's where we're at on this 2012 Bennche. I'm about ready to just call it quits on this thing altogether. Customer already doesn't want to spend the money to keep fixing it, nor I have, let's just say I probably have like over 40 hours in this unit with tracking down all the wiring, what runs what in this unit, because Hisun does not have a schematic for it. So I finally got the four-wheel drive fixed after knowing that the electromagnetic things, 2 of the 3 were bad. Finally figured out the wiring, how to wire this with the new setup on it. And then the rear four-wheel drive locker, or the differential locker, being bad, replaced that. And then it was overheating. Water pump was bad, leaking oil. All right, sorry, battery went dead. So we replaced the water pump because the seal was bad, had water in the oil. Replaced the water pump. We checked all the plastic gears, took the clutch off, checked all the plastic gears for that. Replaced the reverse switch on here because of the dash, which it did work and now it's not working. Also, and now I run across this after cleaning, because yesterday after warming it up and everything, thought the radiator cap wasn't sealing right. So here's what I ran across now. I cleaned it all up. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. There's holes eating through there, all over this thing. This thing is all just because it's sat, and who knows what else is going to happen to this thing. You know, I got a crap ton of hours in this thing, and I told the customer I wouldn't charge him all the hours, but yet he doesn't want to keep fixing it. So I don't know. I might fix this radiator cap deal on that. Oh yeah, and the battery's not charging, so I have to check the stator, see if the stator's bad or the rectifier is bad. So I know he's not gonna keep putting money into this damn thing. I'm freaking sick and tired of working on it. I would fix it if it was mine, but I'm not buying the unit by any means. But it'd definitely be a great unit once everything's fixed. It's just about done fixing everything. There's just a lot of hours in this deal. So I'm gonna fix this mounting point for the radiator cap and all that stuff. You can order those separate. I've got like $4,000 worth of hours in this thing, which I'm not going to recoup, and I'm not going to keep putting money into it, knowing the customer still has to drive from Houston to pick it up if he even wants it. It says he wants it, but I'm not buying the unit. So again, guys, if you got any questions, please drop a comment down below. Sub if you haven't subbed, leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You don't like the content. Other than that, you can find me at limitlesspowersports78@gmail. If you want to email me, find me on Facebook at Limitless Powersports Service and Repair. TikTok at Limitless Powersports Ser and Rep. Again, guys, I appreciate it. Keep subbing if you haven't. and I'll catch you guys on the next upload.